Jordan had one shot to save his mother's life, but when he saw an old man stranded, he made a choice that changed everything. Would you help a stranger if it meant missing your one shot at success? Comment your story and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Jordan Daniels adjusted the collar of his only suit in the cracked mirror above the sink. The jacket was a little tight across the shoulders, but it would have to do. He splashed water on his face, trying to fight the tiredness from another sleepless night. The clock on the wall read 7:12 a.m. Enough time, but only if everything went perfectly. He glanced at the photo on the wall beside the door. His mother smiled back at him, frozen in time from a healthier year. Now, she lay in a hospital bed, 2 bus rides and 1 walk away, her condition worsening by the day. The unpaid bills piled up like storm clouds. This is it, he whispered to himself. Today changes everything. He locked the door behind him and jogged to his old sedan, praying it would start. The engine coughed, wheezed, and finally caught. He exhaled, gripping the wheel, merging onto the road with determination. The company was 30 minutes across town. 1 shot, 1 chance. The position offered full benefits, a steady paycheck, enough to afford his mother's medications and maybe even move her to a better facility. He couldn't afford to blow it. The streets began to blur past him. Every red light felt like a threat. His fingers tapped the steering wheel with nervous energy. He rehearsed his lines, the way he'd shake hands, the way he'd speak with confidence he didn't feel. Then he saw it. Up ahead on the shoulder of the road, an old, boxy Cadillac sat with its hood propped up. Beside it stood an elderly man, hunched and visibly flustered, waving a hand weakly at the passing cars. People drove by without even slowing. Jordan's foot hovered over the brake. His heart thudded. He checked the time again, 7:39 a.m. He could make it if he didn't stop, but the man looked lost, possibly hurt, alone. No, Jordan muttered. You don't have time for this. He was about to hit the gas, but something pulled at him. Maybe it was the way the man held his back like he was in pain. Maybe it was his mother's voice echoing in his head, the one that used to tell him, do the right thing, even if it costs you. He pulled over. Jordan stepped out and walked toward the old man, who looked up, clearly surprised. Sir, you all right? Jordan asked. Flat tire, can't lift the jack. Bad back, the man said, wincing. Jordan looked at his watch again. 7:42. All right, he said, rolling up his sleeves. Let's get you back on the road. He didn't think about the interview. He didn't think about the job. He just knelt down and started loosening the lug nuts. Whatever happened next, he'd deal with it. Right now, someone needed help. Jordan's hands moved quickly, twisting the lug nuts off the rusted wheel. The old man leaned heavily against the fender, his face tight with pain. You sure you don't need to be somewhere? The man asked, peering down at him with watery eyes. Jordan glanced at his watch. 7:44 a.m. Every tick of the second hand sent a fresh wave of anxiety through him, but he forced a tight smile. I've got time, he said. You looked like you needed the help more. The man blinked at him, lips twitching as if he wanted to protest, but he said nothing. Jordan pried the flat tire loose, rolled it to the trunk, and grabbed the spare. His shirt was damp with sweat, his knees scuffed from kneeling on the asphalt. You don't see many folks stopping these days, the man said quietly. Jordan gave a grunt of agreement as he aligned the spare and tightened the lug nuts. You got a name, sir? Arthur, the man replied. Arthur Beaumont. Nice to meet you, Mr. Beaumont. I'm Jordan. Arthur chuckled softly. Well, Jordan, you've got the hands of a mechanic and the manners of a gentleman. I'm lucky you came by. Jordan stood, wiped his hands on his pants, and looked Arthur over. You gonna be all right now? Arthur nodded. Yes, I will. I don't even know how to thank you. He reached into his coat pocket, pulling out a small money clip. Please let me give you something. Just a little for your time. Jordan held up his hand, stepping back. No, sir. I didn't stop for money. Arthur stared at him, clearly moved. Then let me at least shake your hand. Jordan smiled, extended his hand, and the two men shook, firm and respectful. Take care of yourself, Mr. Beaumont, Jordan said, already jogging back to his car. You too, son, Arthur called out. You've got a good heart. Jordan jumped in, slammed the door shut, and hit the gas. The car groaned but moved. He checked the time, 7:56 a.m. He still had a shot if he caught every green light. Traffic was against him. He weaved through cars, his pulse pounding in his ears. His shirt stuck to his back, the minutes slipping away faster than he could make them up. At 8:12 a.m., he pulled into the company's front lot. He dashed through the lobby doors, past the security desk, and stopped breathless at the reception counter. A woman looked up from her computer. May I help you? Jordan Daniels. I had an interview scheduled at 8 o'clock. She glanced at the clock, then back at him with a polite but apologetic expression. I'm sorry, Mr. Daniels. The hiring team has already left. They had a very tight schedule this morning. Jordan's stomach dropped. Is there any way I could? She shook her head. I really am sorry. He stood there, silent, the weight of it crashing down like a wave. Jordan sat on the concrete steps outside the glass doors, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped tightly in front of his face. The rush of adrenaline that had fueled his frantic drive was gone now, replaced by a hollow stillness. Behind him, the building loomed, sleek, modern, impenetrable. He stared at the sidewalk without really seeing it, his mind replaying the receptionist's words again and again. They've already left. I really am sorry. A gust of wind stirred his shirt, still damp from the tire change. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths as the weight of it all pressed down. His mother's medical bills, the overdue rent, the way her hand had trembled yesterday when she reached for her cup of water. This interview had been their last shot at turning things around. He pulled out his phone with stiff fingers and stared at the screen for a moment before dialing. It rang twice before she answered. Jordan. He forced lightness into his voice. Hey ma, just checking in before your appointment today. How did it go? She asked, her voice weak but warm. Did you nail it? Jordan hesitated. He looked out at the street, watching people pass, briefcases, coffee cups, laughter. All of it felt a world away. It went all right, he said, keeping his tone steady. I got there late though, just missed them. Oh no, she said, and he heard the concern immediately. I'm so sorry, baby. Was it traffic? He smiled faintly, even though his chest ached. Something like that. You'll get another chance, she said gently. You always do. He swallowed hard. Yeah, I'm not giving up. They spoke for a few more minutes, her reassuring him pretending not to be broken, and then he hung up. Jordan sat still, the phone heavy in his hand. He had done the right thing. He knew that, but in this moment, it didn't feel noble. Felt like failure. He leaned back against the stone steps, eyes closed, letting the noise of the city blur around him. Inside the building, on the 15th floor, a conversation was unfolding. Sir, a tall woman in a sharp navy suit stood at the doorway of an executive office, a tablet in hand. The man at the desk looked up from his monitor. Yes, Olivia? There was a missed interview this morning. Jordan Daniels apparently arrived just minutes late. The executive's brow furrowed. Jordan Daniels? Yes, sir. He leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing slightly. The name stirred something familiar, recent. Strange, he said under his breath. Why does that name sound familiar? Olivia stood quietly, waiting. He tapped his fingers on the desk, a crease forming between his brows. All right, he said. Forward me his resume. I want to take a look. Outside, Jordan still sat in silence, unaware that a ripple had begun. Sunlight spilled through the towering windows of Klein Enterprises as Arthur Klein stepped through the main doors, moving slowly but with the quiet dignity of a man who had once commanded boardrooms and led negotiations across continents. Though mostly retired now, he still made unannounced visits, partly out of habit, partly because he still enjoyed watching the empire his late wife helped him build thrive under their daughter's lead. The front receptionist stood immediately. Mr. Klein, I'll let Ms. Elena know you're here. Arthur nodded with a gentle smile. No rush, dear. I'll find my way. By the time he reached the executive floor, his daughter Elena was already standing in the hallway waiting for him. Tall, commanding, and sharp-eyed, she softened when she saw him. Dad, she said, arms open. What are you doing here? Arthur hugged her, then leaned back. Had a little adventure this morning. Thought you'd get a kick out of it. She tilted her head. What happened? He followed her into her office, settling carefully into a plush chair. Flat tire on 8th, right in the middle of the rush. You know I can't get these new jacks to work. I was about to call for roadside help when a young man pulled over. Someone helped you? Elena raised an eyebrow. On 8th? During rush hour. Arthur chuckled. Can you believe it? Young man named Jordan. Didn't hesitate. Changed the tire himself. Refused to take a dime. Just shook my hand and told me to take care. Elena leaned forward, intrigued. You got his full name? Jordan Daniels, Arthur said with certainty. Why? She turned to her computer without another word and opened the applicant tracking system. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, brows furrowed in concentration. A moment later, she found it. Jordan Daniels. Scheduled interview, 8 a.m. Status, no show. Her stomach turned. He was supposed to be here this morning, she said aloud, voice barely above a whisper. Arthur's brows lifted. For what? An entry-level management trainee position, she replied, still scanning his resume. Strong academic record. Works part-time. Local. We had him scheduled, but he didn't make it. Arthur leaned back, a thoughtful expression forming. He looked like he was in a rush when he left me. Probably came straight here after helping me. Elena blinked, her gaze lingering on the screen. And he didn't mention it. No, Arthur said. Didn't try to impress me. Just helped and left. Elena tapped her pen against the desk, lost in thought. Send me the full interview log, she told her assistant over the intercom. Arthur stood slowly. Sometimes the right people don't shine on paper. Elena gave a slow nod. Sometimes they show up on 8th Street instead. Arthur smiled, pleased. That one's worth a second look. As he left her office, Elena remained seated, staring at Jordan's name on the screen. A silent question forming in her mind. What kind of man sacrifices everything for a stranger? Jordan adjusted the collar of his only formal shirt as he stood outside the glass doors of Klein Enterprises for the second time in a week. He still couldn't believe the email he had received just a day ago, an invitation back for what they called a second-round interview, despite not even completing the first. No explanation, no mention of the missed appointment, just a polite, professional invitation to return. He didn't ask questions. He just said yes. Inside, the receptionist greeted him warmly this time, as if they already knew something he didn't. They'll be with you shortly, Mr. Daniels. Please have a seat. Jordan nodded, trying not to let nerves show. His knee bounced slightly as he sat in the waiting area, eyes scanning the marble floors and steel accents around him. This place still felt like another world, far from the cracked sidewalks and shared dinners of soup and silence at home with his mom. 10 minutes later, a woman in a navy suit approached with quiet authority. Jordan Daniels? Yes, he stood quickly. I'm Elena Klein. Thank you for coming. His heart skipped a beat. The Elena Klein, the CEO? It's an honor to meet you, he said, extending a hand. She shook it firmly. Let's talk. They walked down a quiet hallway and entered a sleek conference room. No panel of interviewers this time, just her. Elena took a seat at the head of the table, motioning for him to sit across from her. We've reviewed your background, she began. Your academic record, community work, part-time jobs. It's impressive. Thank you, ma'am, Jordan replied, eyes steady. I'd like to know more about how you handle pressure, she said, flipping a page on her notepad. Let's say you're faced with a tough decision, one that could hurt your chances of success but might help someone else. What would guide your actions? Jordan didn't hesitate. I believe in doing what's right, even if it costs me something. At the end of the day, I have to live with myself. She nodded slowly, expression unreadable. And if the opportunity you needed passed you by because of that choice, I'd still make it, he said quietly. Some things are bigger than ambition. Elena leaned back, studying him in silence. He didn't mention the flat tire, didn't mention the old man. He spoke as if he had nothing to prove, like his values didn't need spotlighting. For the next 30 minutes, she asked about logistics, strategy, long-term goals. Jordan answered calmly, thoughtfully. He didn't oversell. He didn't try too hard. When the interview ended, Elena stood. Thank you for coming, Jordan. We'll be in touch. He smiled faintly. Thank you for giving me a second chance. As he left, Elena remained in her seat, fingers drumming the table softly. She didn't need to ask why he missed the first interview. She already knew. And now, she'd seen exactly what kind of man he was. Elena sat in her office long after most of the staff had gone home, her fingers tapping lightly on her keyboard. Jordan Daniels. The name sat at the top of her screen, followed by a neatly compiled report from HR. She'd requested more than the standard background check. She wanted to know who he was beyond qualifications and degrees. She read slowly, absorbing every line. Raised by a single mother, no siblings, no criminal record, no academic scandals. Just an uninterrupted chain of low-wage jobs, cashier, delivery driver, warehouse assistant, all held down while attending school full-time. His recent employment showed double shifts at a diner and an overnight stockroom job at a supermarket. Her eyes lingered on a hospital billing report. His mother, diagnosed with a degenerative autoimmune disease. Weekly treatments, climbing expenses. He didn't say a word about any of this, she murmured to herself. Just then, her office door opened without a knock. So this is the new pet project? Elena glanced up. Her brother Miles Klein stepped inside, arms folded, one brow arched. As senior vice president, he had his own corner office, but never hesitated to barge into hers. I didn't realize we were skipping the chain of protocol now, he continued. Bringing in candidates without informing the hiring panel? Elena sighed. He's not just any candidate. I gathered that, Miles said dryly. You're doing background checks like he's joining the board. I wanted context. Miles moved closer, eyeing the file on her screen. Let me guess. Or hardworking. Some underdog story that pulled at your heartstrings? It's not about charity, she said coolly. It's about merit and character. Miles smirked. Or maybe it's about you feeling guilty for shutting down half the internship program last quarter. She didn't bite. You said no exceptions, he went on. Then this guy strolls in late to his own interview, and suddenly we're making space for him? He never asked for a second chance, she replied. He showed up, stayed humble, and let his actions speak. That kind of integrity matters. Miles laughed once, shaking his head. You're betting a lot on a sob story. Elena stood. I'm giving someone a shot. That's what leadership is, calculated risks. Miles's tone turned sharper. Calculated, sure, but don't confuse sentiment for strategy, Elena. One mistake and this comes back on you. She walked to the window, staring out over the city. Noted. Behind her, the tension thickened. Miles studied her in silence for a moment before adding, "Don't forget, we're not running a charity. We're running Klein Enterprises." Then he left, shutting the door with just enough force to make his point. Elena stood still, mind racing. She knew Miles would keep a close eye on Jordan now, maybe even try to undermine him, but that only made her more certain. She'd seen something real in Jordan Daniels, something her brother, blinded by power games, couldn't recognize. The real test hadn't even begun. The email arrived early the next morning, its subject line stark and to the point, probationary role offer. Jordan opened it with a mix of hope and trepidation. As his eyes scanned the terms, the excitement quickly faded. The pay was barely above minimum wage. There were no health benefits, no bonuses, no perks at all, just a 3-month probationary period with the expectation of outstanding performance. The position was entry-level, far below what he had dreamed of when he first applied. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. This was not the breakthrough he had imagined. It was a chance to prove himself, but it came with the kind of pressure that could break anyone who wasn't determined enough to fight through it. Still, as he reread the email, a sense of resolve began to settle in. His mother's condition wasn't improving, and the mounting medical bills weighed heavily on him. The reality was simple. This job, no matter how humble, was his only shot. Without hesitation, he clicked the acceptance button. "Thank you for the opportunity. I will not disappoint you," he typed, before pressing send. There was no room for doubt now. He had made his decision. He knew this role wouldn't be easy, but he had come too far to back out. He could almost hear his mother's voice, urging him forward. "Don't stop, Jordan. You've always found a way." Elena had been clear about the expectations. It wasn't just about meeting goals. It was about demonstrating perseverance, dedication, and an unshakable work ethic. Those things, she had told him in his second interview, would be what set him apart. But as the day went on, Jordan couldn't shake the feeling that there was more riding on this than just proving himself. Across town, in the sleek, polished office of Klein Enterprises, Miles Klein was studying the same email on his own laptop. A dark smile played at the corners of his lips as he closed the screen, a decision already forming in his mind. Miles had been watching Jordan closely, and the more he observed, the more he became convinced that the young man's presence in the company was a threat. Miles wasn't used to sharing the spotlight, and Jordan's quiet determination irked him. To him, the probationary role wasn't a chance, it was a test of how long Jordan could keep his head above water. Miles would make sure of that. His eyes narrowed as he reached for his phone. The wheels were already in motion. He'd make Jordan's time at the company as difficult as possible, just to see how much he could take. Jordan, however, was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing behind the scenes. His focus remained fixed on one thing, proving that he belonged, that he could handle whatever the job threw at him. After all, this was his shot, and he wasn't about to waste it. Jordan sat at his desk, eyes scanning the financial report that had been passed down to him. The numbers weren't adding up. His instincts, honed over years of working multiple jobs, screamed at him. Something was wrong. He ran the calculations again, his fingers flying across the keyboard. The error was clear now, a miscalculation that would cost the company tens of thousands if left uncorrected. But as he continued to dig into the details, his stomach churned. The error wasn't a simple mistake. It was a deliberate oversight, one that pointed back to a report submitted by Miles Klein's department. Jordan's heart sank. Reporting this would not only expose the mistake, but would also implicate Miles. And that could lead to serious consequences, especially for someone like Jordan, who was still on probation. He sat back, staring at the screen, wrestling with his conscience. He knew the political cost of bringing this to light. Miles would never let this slide, and Jordan's position at the company would be in jeopardy. He'd likely be accused of overstepping, of challenging someone with more power in the company. But then again, if he didn't report it, the company would suffer. He thought of his mother, her condition worsening every day. She had always taught him to stand by his principles, no matter the cost. He couldn't turn away now. He couldn't let his fear of the consequences silence his integrity. With a deep breath, Jordan drafted the correction, outlining the error and providing the necessary adjustments. His hands trembled slightly as he hit send. It was done. No turning back now. Later that afternoon, Elena called Jordan into her office. He walked in with a steady pace, but his mind was racing. She was already seated behind her desk, a serious expression on her face. "You made a correction to the financial report today," she said, her voice calm but firm. Jordan nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. "Yes, I noticed an error that needed fixing. It was a mistake that could cost the company." Elena studied studied him for a moment before speaking again. It wasn't just a mistake, was it? Jordan met her gaze, holding his ground. No, it wasn't. Just then, the door to the office opened, and Arthur Klein stepped inside, his presence quiet but commanding. He had overheard the conversation. Elena looked up, surprised to see her father there, but then nodded as he walked closer. I know what happened, Arthur said, his voice warm yet serious. Jordan, you're the one who helped me with my car, the man with the integrity. Elena's eyes widened in realization. You're the one? She asked, astonished. Arthur nodded. This young man not only saved me from being stranded, but he did it with no expectation of anything in return. I've been watching him, and I can see that he's someone who believes in doing what's right, even when it's difficult. Elena was silent for a moment, processing his words. She'd seen Jordan's actions as a test of character, but this was something far more profound. Her gaze shifted to Jordan, and for the first time, she saw him not just as an employee, but as someone whose values might just be the very thing the company needed. The boardroom was quiet, the air thick with anticipation. Arthur Klein stood at the head of the table, his eyes scanning the faces of the board members, many of whom had no idea what had been happening behind the scenes. They knew of the financial report issues, but they didn't know the whole story. Arthur cleared his throat and began speaking, his voice steady but laced with authority. I've called this meeting to address a matter of integrity, something that has been at the heart of recent events involving my daughter's company. He paused, letting his words settle. All eyes were on him now, the room's tension palpable. It's come to my attention that an attempt was made to sabotage a young man named Jordan Daniels, someone who has shown nothing but honesty and dedication since the moment I met him. The board members shifted in their seats, exchanging confused glances. Arthur continued, his gaze hardening as he turned to face Miles. Miles, I've seen your attempts to undermine Jordan. Your actions are unacceptable. You've tried to push him out to make him fail. Why? Because you saw him as a threat to your position. His voice rose, the accusation hanging heavily in the air. Miles' face flushed, but he remained silent, unwilling to meet his father's gaze. The room buzzed with whispers as the truth came to light, the revelation of Miles' underhanded tactics now public. Arthur's eyes returned to the board, and his voice softened, yet carried the weight of a father's disappointment. This is a company built on values, on doing what is right. I will not stand by while those values are compromised for personal gain. Elena, who had been listening quietly, stood up. She looked to Jordan, sitting near the back of the room, his hands clenched nervously. Jordan Daniels has earned his place here, she said, her voice ringing with conviction. He didn't just fix a mistake, he demonstrated something this company has sorely lacked, integrity. His actions speak louder than any report ever could. There was a pause, and then Elena turned to face Jordan fully, her eyes warm. Jordan, I'm promoting you to a permanent position, effective immediately. You'll receive full benefits, enough to ensure your mother gets the care she needs. We believe in second chances, and you've proven you deserve one. Jordan's heart skipped a beat. He felt a lump rise in his throat. For a moment, he couldn't speak. All the late nights, all the sacrifices, it had all led to this. His mind raced with the realization of what this meant, not just for his career, but for his mother's future. He stood up slowly, his emotions threatening to overwhelm him. Thank you, he said, his voice breaking slightly. I don't know what to say. This is more than I ever expected, but I promise, I won't let you down. The board members nodded in approval, some visibly moved by his sincerity. As Jordan turned to leave the room, his heart was full. He had been given a chance, a real chance, to change everything. But he knew that the real work was just beginning. Jordan walked into the bright, quiet room of the care facility, his heart lighter than it had been in months. The place had a newness to it, clean and filled with the comforting hum of activity. His mother, seated by the window in a recliner, looked up as he entered. Her face, once drawn and pale from years of struggle, now carried a hint of color. Her eyes brightened when she saw him. Mom, he said softly, walking over to her side. He placed a gentle kiss on her forehead, his eyes briefly closing as he took in the moment. I've got some news. Her tired eyes blinked, her voice weak but warm. What is it, Jordan? He smiled, fighting the urge to laugh out loud. We've got the care we've been hoping for. They're moving you into a better room, closer to the therapy center. He paused, letting the words sink in, watching as her face lit up with disbelief. I've been promoted at work. Full benefits, Mom. Everything's going to be okay. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she reached out, squeezing his hand. You did it, Jordan. You really did it. For a moment, they just sat there together, the weight of the past few months lifting, replaced by the lightness of a future that suddenly seemed full of possibility. It wasn't just about the job or the promotion. It was the peace of knowing his mother's health would finally be taken care of. Back at the company, Jordan had become become a figure of quiet admiration. Colleagues respected him not only for his work ethic, but for the integrity that had earned him his place. He was no longer just another hire, he was the man who had earned everything the hard way. New recruits often sought him out, eager for his guidance, his wisdom. Jordan had become a mentor, helping others navigate the same challenges he'd once faced. He didn't just show them the ropes, he showed them what it meant to do things the right way. He wasn't just a role model, he was proof that hard work and honesty could truly change a life. Meanwhile, across the company, Arthur watched from the sidelines with a quiet smile. He had seen a lot of things in his life, but nothing moved him quite like this. One simple act of kindness, stopping to help a stranger, had led to something far greater than anyone could have predicted. It had changed Jordan's life, and in turn, it had changed the course of his own family's legacy. As Jordan stood in the break room, talking to a new hire about the challenges ahead, he caught a glimpse of Arthur in the hallway. Their eyes met, and in that brief moment, Jordan understood. The old man knew that, while the company had given him a chance, it was his integrity that had made all the difference. One honest heart had set everything in motion, and in that quiet moment, Jordan realized that this was only the beginning. The road ahead might be long, but for the first time, it was full of promise. If you believe in the power of integrity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with others who need to hear it.